Virus has been a relatively good idea in terms of the skill shot.
Virus is a relatively good idea in terms of... So just because Virus requires skill, it's a good idea. So Virus, skill is good.
And it's
damage,
exacerbated by hack. It's basically, if you hit the virus, I think that's a very difficult gameplay loop.
Why do you phrase it like this? Oh, it was a great idea, but everything about it, apart from the fact that it required skill to use, was bad. Like, what are we talking about? So it was bad, Spilo. It was a bad idea from conception because it was concepted not as a skill shot, it was concepted as a way of dueling people and ambushing people. It was bad from conception, right? And then after conception, we tied it into hack and made it even worse. What are my predictions for Spilo changing? Okay, so predictions. Spilo keeps the virus. Spilo understands that she struggles for off-angle dueling. In terms of lurking, I don't know when this was recorded from Spilo, because Spilo was talking to me last night, but he might have got this from me in terms of lurking. Question mark, question mark, question mark. So that's prediction on that. I feel like Spilo's gonna want to make her more of a average character. That's my prediction. You know what? There you go. That's my prediction. He's gonna decouple, stealth, and translocator. What does lurking mean? Lurking means standing still round a corner, waiting for people to walk past you so you can murder them in the back. It does not necessarily mean spawn camping. So lurking would be if this is a corner, let's say this is King's Row, and that's the main route down there, and I sit here and let the enemy team walk past me, hack in the back, hack and kill. That's lurking. It's not spawn camping, but it just means that you don't have stealth in order to do it, and you're just kind of like chilling. Camping? Yeah, you can call it camping. I don't know if Spilo will bring it up. That's, will he bring it up? He's going to decouple stealth and translocator. What else is he going to do? So what else have we got? Opportunist. Spilo keeps or tones down opportunist to 10%. I think, like, he's going to tone down opportunist. I think lurking is unhealthy for the game. Well, that's exactly what this character can do and solely do at the moment. Spilo's not going to put stealth on a resource meter. I doubt he'll mention that. He's not going to fully address the argument. I think he's not going to fully address the argument on the angle, but I think he's going to play lip service to it. Overarching goals, prediction. Let Sombra play all three styles. Make dueling on off angles slightly better. Virus buffs. Keep all skill shots in hit. Virus always stays because Spilo doesn't like me. Anything else? Anything else? I like Virus more than Hack if it just buffs her damage and applies dot for long periods of time. So you'd keep the Virus. Okay, so you say long periods of time. That's the important one, Mr. Truth, in my opinion. If it is a bursty ability that exists over 3 or 2 seconds, then it adds significantly to dueling potential. I guess you could put everything on hack. I guess you could just like barrel Virus and hack together and just say, do you know what? There's no cast, so there's no problem with dueling with hack because, or maybe that's what he's gonna do. There's no problem with dueling with hack because we move it all to Virus so it casts instantly. And all you're doing isn't the Sombra stuff. What you're doing is you're just playing Cassidy, right? You're just playing Ashe. You just have a dynamite to throw at the enemy and it's a skill shot, so it's fair. That's what he's going to do, 100%. Do you think Spilo would dislike really significantly the ability to be able to see people on low health and assassinate them? I feel like he's going to want to validate all forms of play of this character. You're biased to the Sombra player, the rest of us have hated her. But my version of... I'm not a Sombra player in the current version of Sombra. I'm not. I hate Sombra. I hate Sombra currently. We're going to watch Spilo's. The real reason Sombra sucks now. We have made our Sombra rework. So this is our Sombra rework here. We have made predictions of what Spilo's going to do. And we're going to see if he fills our predictions. So we're saying he's going to keep the Virus, tone down Opportunist 10%. He's going to understand the struggle on the off-angle dueling, but he's not going to fully address it. He's going to mention lurking on angles, but I don't think he's going to fully address it. He's going to decouple stealth and translocate like every other person that's ever spoke about the Sombra rework. And he's going to remove Walcap, possibly.
There's a recent rework to Sombra that gave her a lot of little changes. A couple of them that we'll highlight really quickly here. Translocator and stealth are now tied together, and stealth is on a timer, so there's no infinite stealth for staging however and whenever you want. In fact, you have to use your translocator to stage, which can lead to some interesting gameplay loop ideas. We'll talk about that one. And then also Opportunist is back, which essentially means that any hack target you do 20% more damage to. So there's been a couple of other minor tweaks, so we're not going to focus on that, but those are the big 2 main ones. The problem with this rework has essentially been where you're able to use your translocator to use stealth for staging. But the problem is that you can't actually initiate until you're unstealthed, because by the time that the stealth ends, you have about 2 seconds left on your translocator, so you can actually get...
I'd say, yeah, that's the argument. You can't use translocator for staging.
Now, the problem is if you use your stealth, and then you would look to initiate, all right, here we go, you don't have an escape cooldown for 2 or 3 seconds. So you're very, very...
And it's also that you have to cancel stealth in order to be able to get the virus and other stuff like that off. You're very much full committed. Yeah, I'd agree.
Vulnerable for any staging that you go in. Alternatively, if you use your translocator in stage and you wait for stealth to expire, okay, yes, now you have translocator in a few seconds. That's great. But the problem is that the entire point of the stealth as an initiation tool is gone. Now, I have never been a big fan of permanent stealth. I think the ability to stage and position however you like with 0 risk is something that really shouldn't be involved.
I definitely agree with him so far. The stealth as an initiation tool is fine-ish if it's limited in the way that it works. And as Amon said, being able to virus directly out of stealth, or being able to actually do that duel probably would be more concurrent than having to cancel stealth then virus, because you're always going into a disadvantage. But in the current state, what we got it so that you can hack out of stealth, but you can't virus out of stealth, which is kind of the opposite way round than I put it. Because hack puts you at a massive advantage in the fight. Virus evens out the fight. So like virus is just a damage ability that which is used on DPS. If you hack, you guaranteed to get virus unless the enemy team literally just AFKs mentally. Or you miss, and you missing is not something the enemy team can control. So if you get hack on the enemy and you get a virus on the enemy, they're fucking dead. I'm sorry, I don't know what you've been smoking, but they are dead. So there's a load of problems with Sombra gameplay looping that it emphasizes that you should hack in order to get the virus. It even makes it better if you hack in order to get the virus. So it's the opposite of what it always should have been. And I feel less janky. I agree with Ammon.
There should be at least visual information about when and where you are. And I think it's a good change that we're removing permanent stealth. However, I don't like that this doesn't decouple stealth and translocator, because the whole point of Sombra should be that stealth is on a timer, yes, but there's an actual ability for you to either deepen your angle with locator or
decouple stealth and translocator. Got it. Okay, number 1.
Engage from your staging with locator. And right now you have to use basic.
Let's one. Let's see if we can get a full sweep. Maybe I should have put bingo on. Oh, that would have been good. So 5 done.
Basically both of your mobility tools in one. Now, this is not really addressing the elephant in the room, which is Sombra's identity as a whole. You see, Sombra has always been maybe the most fundamentally flawed character besides Widowmaker.
No, she hasn't. She's just had a hack abilities that's too strong. I don't think she's been fundamentally flawed. I think that she's been fine-ish, and she had a very poor skill curve due to the way that the different parts of her kit are balanced.
Overwatch, since her design, you have a character that has stealth, which has always been a problematic thing in any PvP game.
No, it's not problematic necessarily in PvP games. It is something you have to balance around actively. It's not always problematic. It's just like you've got to do stuff. Was Mei fine in Overwatch 1? No, Mei was a tank in Overwatch 1. Mei was an off-tank in Overwatch 1, meaning that you could stack an extra off-tank onto a team and make it so the team was extra brawly, which was not fine in general. I think Mei... Do you know what the thing, Paranuma? I wouldn't remove Mei from Overwatch 1, but I acknowledge that Mei was not good. If I could go back to Overwatch 1, I'd have Mei in exactly the same form that she was, in terms of being able to stuff out chokes and wall out chokes and stop brawl and being annoying, and you're on Hanamura second and somebody walling off the top room there and they're absolutely abusing you, all that kind of stuff. It's Freeze? Who the hell cares about Freeze? Freeze shouldn't pierce, but Freeze was absolutely fine if it didn't pierce. Freeze on M1. Maybe the timing should have been slightly increased so you could predict it and chill. But yeah, she was an off tank. Do you remember the off tank stuff? Off tanks as a class of character, specifically the tank. The tank reinforcing off tanks, Zarya and Diva. Do you know what their traits are? Big bursty pressure that causes massive effects in a short period of time, and the ability to shut down the enemy team's pressure cycle with that pressure at the same time. So it's either an aggressive big pressure burst or defensive big pressure burst. So you see that, right? That how defensively large as a pressure burst, just being able to hold freeze on the enemy team to shut down their pressure is crazy big, right? It's crazy big. So that's the problem. Mei was always a tank. I don't hate the type of Overwatch that had Mei be able to exist there. I don't hate the type of Overwatch that had Doomfist be able to exist there in the DPS role. There's loads of characters that should be tanks that are more interesting in the DPS role because it creates texture into the game, especially when you're in a role-lock format. But realistically, a defensive Reinhardt comp would have started playing Reinhardt Mei pretty soon. That's my prediction, right? It would have started just playing Reinhardt Mei on quite a lot of these because you didn't need the extra tank if you played it properly. She was an off tank. She always was an off tank. That's just what she is.
Design. If it could be the most fundamentally flawed character besides Widowmaker in Overwatch, since her design. You have a character that has stealth, which has always been a problematic thing in any PvP game. A character that in her rework has been revolving more around her assassination, one-shot style of playstyle with her hack.
Which is an absolutely awful way to go. Come on, say it, Spilo. Say the words. The words on your lips. Say the word.
Virus, which has always been problematic in a PvP game. But that's changing her from a situation where a lot of her utility revolved around her hack, which was a very hard CC, and even now is still a CC that can be frustrating to play versus, and that is something that has also always been problematic in a PvP game. So she really has the holy trifecta of everything difficult to balance, and I want to give the developers credit for actually trying things. But the question is what?
Oh, developers, I love you so much. Please hire me for the balance team. Come on, Spilo. Come on. Yeah, we can give you credit for doing something. Your job was to do something in the video game. It's like, what we're gonna say? Oh, well, you left her as she is and didn't do your job, so you didn't even try. It's bad. Do we need the shield button back? Maybe.
What does Sombra need? To see the problem.
It's not his job to fix the game for them. It's not his job at the moment. But as he revealed in stream yesterday, he's actually in the last round as the hero balance designer job role. Interviewing. So
in a PvP game. So she really has the holy trifecta of everything difficult to balance, and I want to give the developers credit for actually trying things. But the question is what does Sombra need? To see the problem with Sombra prior to her rework and after her rework is she keeps bouncing between two extremes. We either have the hard backline assassinator playstyle, which is not healthy for the game, or you have the basically off angle, soft off angle, deny the enemy tank from doing anything, hack off of cooldown, farm EMP.
I'm gonna add an extra one here because I feel like that's important. Spilo will not in any way address hack. I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't think he broke the topic. He's gonna try and fix their version and not do his own.
Which is also not very functional. You see, one playstyle that Sombra really has never had, at least for very long, I mean, not to really my knowledge ever, is the ability to just fight like a normal DPS. You see, any other DPS, when they take an angle, the priority usually is to duel whoever's on that angle. Genji takes an angle, fights whoever's on the angle. Hanzo takes an angle, fight whoever's on the angle. And this often means that we have a lot of DPS versus DPS.
Spilo understands the struggle that she struggles for off-angle dueling. There we go, very simple. I'm very worried that Spilo's reaction to this is to make her good at off-angle dueling, and that's it. That's my worry. As I said before, like he's just going to make it so that she's kind of like more viable in all different ways.
But when Sombra fights, she doesn't fight fair. And so even when she does go for the Genji on...
Do you know what, Ammon? Even better than that? Spilo won't mention hack silence at all. There you go. That's my prediction. Spilo won't even fucking mention it. That's my prediction.
On the angle, the Cassie on the angle, the Bastion, the Torbjorn on the angle, the Echo on the angle. A lot of it is I'm going to hack.
16-minute auto stealth? What? I assumed it was you.
And virus you. If I don't, I die or fail and have to get out. If I do succeed, there's really nothing you can do about it, and you're just instantly dead. It's a very gimmicky, rogue, ratty, nasty playstyle, and it's a part of the reason why people really don't like playing versus Sombra.
She still has a stealth pass for 16 minutes. They didn't even remove it. Oh God, Christ! Oh God, does it go on the normal cooldown? Christ! Oh my God.
Going for backline and is just fighting a DPS. It's basically all or nothing. Now some of you might be like, well, that's part of the high risk high reward aspect of the playstyle, and that's nothing particularly wrong with that. And maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're right. Excuse me. However,
so all or nothing. I kind of said this type of thing is all or nothing. It's very much full commit with TP and stealth, lose the fight due to neutral disadvantage. Yeah, it's all or nothing. 100%.
Revolve around
He's
similar
entirely
gameplay loops are also very unpopular, and I don't think that's an accident. Think about what's another character within the Overwatch cast, tank, DPS, or support that's really...
Oh, for fuck's sake. Where is it? Well, I write it down. Did I write it down? Let's just let him talk for a minute. Let's just let him finish the point.
Character within the Overwatch cast, tank, DPS, or support that's really all or nothing in how they play. Widowmaker, Roadhog, and that's sometimes Hanzo. Characters that don't provide a lot of consistent utility, don't provide a lot of consistent pressure, and whose ability to duel is really revolving around their ability to one-shot. And I think that that's what makes people dislike this character, because even if there is a risk for the reward, even if there's skill sometimes involved in the execution, see, I don't think Sombra's a low-skill character. It doesn't make it any more fun to play versus. You don't even know where she is. Her gameplay loop when fighting a DPS, even now, is incredibly fast. And if that doesn't happen, then she just dies, especially since the rework where there's been a little bit more risk involved. So what's the solution? Can we actually have Sombra's gameplay loop be a little bit longer than 1 second, whether it's staging on backline or just hacking the tank off angling over and over and over again. How do we have Sombra control space and fight space without...
Yeah, so he's come to the same conclusion as me. You're either there, you can't fight there, or you're there, right? That's the problem. And when we remove the perma-stealth, we can't fight there, so we need to do something else.
Either being an obnoxious...
And even if you do fight in the backline, you're too sharp when you do fight. And if you do fight in the off angle right here, you have a problem because you either win or you lose hard because of the TP and the stealth cooldown and other stuff like that. And yeah, there's a version. You know what, Amon? There's 100% a version of this that'll work fine, but I don't think it's a salvageable version that is interesting. I feel like the version of Sombra is the version with strategic decision making, but whatever. You know, in Overwatch 2, we can't afford decision making nowadays.
Denier, farming EMP, basically turning brain off, or permanently in your backline assassinating people or wasting a lot of time. And I think that we have maybe not an answer, but some ideas to spit around. And I think like this is where I'm going to try to have a little bit of humility here. Well, I am going to have a little humility because I really don't know. These are just some ideas here. So what is the identity of Sombra? Medium range flanker with utility plus extra.
I knew he'd have notes. Hello, Spilo.
Repositioning options. We want a flanker with a little bit of verticality. We want a flanker with more utility than the average Genji tracer and so on. And I think that we can keep that identity with her.
There you go. There you go, guys. First rate. I feel like what he's going to do is he's going to make her, bring her a little bit. Every single time there's any problem in the game, do you know what Spilo's solution is? Come on, just a bit closer to the middle, guys. Come on. A bit closer to the middle. Just make it a little bit more like Soldier. Come on. Come on. Just a little bit more boring. Just a little bit more boring. 250 HP, that's an interesting one. I didn't put that on the bingo card.
But we need to discourage just the one-shot spawn camping. We need to discourage just strict utility through manual...
Yep, discourage spawn camping, discourage strict utility through manual close-range hack. Oh, why do we have to discourage utility through manual close-range hack? We need to make it not affect the tanks in an obtuse way so that Sombra gets a load of value with hacking from the front lines. But why do we need to restrict the utility through manual close-range hack onto the sides of the back lines? Why? It all goes back to the problem with solo tank. We can't hack tanks for so long because they can't survive. So let's give a burst damage, but now Squishy died too fast. But that's the thing. You can easily do this, right? You can easily balance this individually. It's not hard to do. It just requires you actually sorting the numbers and making it apply different effects to different characters.
Close range hack. And we need to encourage intelligent strategic dueling without removing our identity. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, but isn't that kind of already the case right now? Like,
encourage intelligent strategic dueling without removing her identity. Okay, so this is to do with the OW2 identity, right? Not the OW1 identity. OW1 is this right thing that he's trying to discourage. OW2 is this dueling, right? That's a difference.
Dueling without removing our identity. Now,
the identity was previously before they fucked her up for like 5 years. So fair enough, people don't talk about this or don't remember it in general, but it was being a strategist.
You might be saying, oh, but isn't that kind of already the case right now? Like right now, Sombra can kind of soft off angle. She can go for backline with her translocator and stuff. It's just a little bit harder to. Well, the problem is that even the soft off angle just doesn't really work, because the problem is if you put my Sombra here, the pressure isn't good enough. You have to get within range of hack. The problem with hack is you have to close proximity that doesn't necessarily play her effective range versus a lot of the cast. There's risk. It's also...
Yeah, there you go. Oh, God. Calling it. Where is it? Where is it? Well, it's very obvious that Spilo's going to keep virus. He hasn't mentioned lurking.
Easy to interrupt. So if she doesn't get opportunist, she doesn't do very good mid-range pressure. In addition to that, she has 225 HP. So she's almost impossibly easy to be able to clear out. In fact, if you think of any other medium range character when it comes to holding angles like this, not necessarily going for assassinations, Cassidy, Soldier, Sojourn, anybody.
Hold on. None of those characters can hold an angle like this because they're too close to the tank. Do you know what's going to happen? The diva goes, I'm the murder. I use micros. You're fucking dead.
All of them.
I DM you for 3 seconds. Dead. What you mean is when the soldier off angles like 5-10 meters back from here is what you mean?
Put out more pressure than Sombra at this point in time. So the only thing that makes Sombra unique, again, is these assassinations. And now that there's more risk to the assassination, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make it very frustrating for the Sombra. There's no real consistent gameplay loop with the translocator and stealth, as we talked about earlier. So there isn't really a good
Sombra 76 needs long range hack. So are we right that he's going to combine that hack and the virus?
for Sombra right now. And does that mean that Sombra's bad right now? No, there might be a way to make her work, but it still doesn't mean that the rework was successful at actually dealing with her initial issues. So let's talk about what are some ideas here.
By the way, I just like to fully say, you cannot remove her hack. The reason why you can't remove her hack is hack people with the clicky handy effect is 100% a part of the hero fantasy for the character. If anything is a part of any hero fantasy, the handy hack is part of the hero fantasy. Yeah, or just increase the range. But you know what he's going to do? He's not going to increase the range, Paranuma. Do you know why he's not going to increase the range? Because he likes skill shots. He hates things that don't have a high skill floor in order to get into it. He hates things that don't have a high skill ceiling. There's no way to have different parts of the kit that both have... Like, interesting kits to me are kits that gel with, like, so let's do the graph because the graph is funny. Skill floor, skill ceiling, value versus skill. Where are we going? And there's going to be value, there's going to be skill, and then like there's some characters that have abilities like this, and at the same time they have abilities like this, right? And the balance of these are the interesting part. So we have like 3 or 4 abilities that balance you out to a happy medium, and certain players can lean on certain strengths of that character in order to do interesting things. That's the interesting part to me. But what Spilo does is he essentially goes like anything that's like this, the high value floor. What he does is he really wants to push that lower, and he really wants to push that higher on every single time he does a rework or a move. I get that impression from him. Like, it's always push it higher.
First is I think that she needs 250 HP. Now this buffs both.
Hack sucks. How do you change that? Well, you could, yeah, as somebody said, just increase the range on hack would do what he wants to begin with, but he's not going to do that. He's going to turn it into virus, I bet.
Her backline precedence and her
yeah, there you go. Combo virus with hack shrink projectile. Oh god, damn it.
Single presence. But we're going to try to discourage only going for assassinations a little bit later. Next, we're going to be splitting stealth from transit.
Wait, what was the logic about the
talk about both going for assassinations a little bit later. Next, we're going to be splitting stealth.
Wait, what?
250 HP. Now this talk, it still doesn't mean that the rework was successful at actually dealing with her initial issues. So let's talk about what are some ideas here. First things first is I think that she needs 250 HP. Now this buffs both her backline presence and her off-angle presence, but we're going to try to discourage only going for assassinations a little bit later. Next, we're going to be splitting stealth from translocator.
Okay, I don't know why. The reason for the lower health pools is to enable somebody to push out somebody from the angle faster with less damage. That's the kind of idea, to threaten them to be low. And the thing is, 225 HP and 250 HP really isn't a balancing point for the dueling potential of the character. And I don't think people get this, because the damage of the character is balanced against the dueling potential of the character, right? So you increase the HP, you lower the damage. You increase the damage, you lower the HP. They're balanced against each other. So if you choose 225 HP, you're not making it so that they're easier to, like, they're worse at duels. What you're doing is making it so that they're easier to chip out of an angle in a duel, right? Or on an angle, right? They're easier to get out of an angle, and they're easier to put back into an angle. But yeah, I need to obviously talk about this more.
We're going to put stealth on a cooldown, 6-second cooldown.
I intend to make a main channel video for this, because quite frankly, I've been intending to do this argument for quite a while, but can we change Sombra's primary color to blue? That blue hack effects and mirror watch Sombra look really cool. They did look cool.
Second duration, so you've used stealth for 5 seconds. Probably maintains the detection resistance that it currently has. I think that aspect is kind of interesting. And then once it's used, you have on a cooldown. And honestly, all of these numbers, I'm just spitballing. This could easily be 8 or 9 seconds. It could be shorter. I don't really know. Without testing it, this is just spitballing ideas. And the idea here is that you use your stealth to take a little bit of an angle, you pop out, and you apply pressure. You could even argue here that there's less of a need for stealth if her mid-range pressure is better, because what is stealth used for if not repositioning, and why do you need to reposition deep if you can actually apply mid-range pressure? You don't have to go for backline anymore. So I'm open for interpretation. Some of the people in my chat were discussing something like 2 translocators, but I think keeping stealth as part of Sombra's identity could be cool.
Okay, he's just doing the pretty much plain split stealth on locator.
Basically what you'd have is you'd have a medium range duelist who's going to constantly change her position, but change her position unpredictably.
Love his
and I think that could be interesting.
Naming.
Now this is the big one that we're going to try to use to
like
discourage going for backline, discourage going for only backline assassination. Still make them functional in certain situations, but not quite as dominant. This is going to be combining virus with hack. You hit the virus,
here we go.
Hack. We can shrink the projectile if we need to, because it is a pretty forgiving.
So it's basically, my problem with virus is at a projectile speed where it's incredibly hard to avoid, but also incredibly hard to hit reliably. So it's one of those things where you can get better at it, but once you get to like 80% better at it, you're not getting better. So it has actually a skill ceiling cap on Virus, and it has a skill floor cap on Virus for the most part. So Virus is kind of like this weird ability that is a skill shot, requires you to aim, but is kind of like this similar to Hack. So I don't know why you put it on Virus compared to Hack, when Hack's been like the thing that Sombra's been known for a long period of time.
Size right now, 1 to 1.5 second silence, which is essentially the Hack duration. 30 damage initial, 30 damage over time, over 6 seconds. So this is essentially half of the current Virus damage. However, on application, and not only does it do the 30 damage initially, but it does hack them for 1 to 1.5 seconds. One of the key components of balancing that I've learned is that CC is stronger on tanks often, damage is stronger on squishies. So when you have something like this, where it's 60 damage, yeah, it's not a lot.
Is aiming Hack is cooler? Sure, you might say it's cooler, but it's not necessary to have every single character need to aim everything. And like, variety is the spice of life kind of thing. I don't like, as a concept, having to aim every single ability in the game, because at a certain point you're not adding diversity to the game, you're not adding interesting things to the game. What you're adding is a necessity of aiming on every single character, right? That's kind of like the idea.
But it is
Doesn't
something
seem like a good enough payoff. The silence is a good enough payoff on its own.
And it is something that's going to allow you to win a duel more consistently. So the question is when you take an angle with Sombra, do you want to utilize this to win or practice taking a duel with a DPS? Or do you want to use this to disrupt and create a window of opportunity in the enemy tank? This is something that you actually have to think about. So even though we're combining abilities, I think we're actually introducing more choice, because now it's not just about the Virus damage, it's actually...
Yeah, you're introducing more choice, because now you have silence to actually think about. And I agree with this. This makes Virus and Hack, because essentially Virus and Hack are like very similar abilities, right? One just affects the tanks more, one affects the DPS more for the most part, and then Hack got combined to damage because Blizzard, I don't know, they just did it. But basically what he's doing is he's tying them together, saying screw it, they can be together. Whereas what I'm saying is get rid of him, increase the general damage. I don't know why we have Virus to begin with. Why would we need the extra stuff? And then just put it into the normal damage. Should normal aim abilities be limited in their effectiveness or strength? I feel like Hack feels bullshit because it's so strong without aiming. Hack feels bullshit because Hack... Oh, guys, 16-minute stealth! Man, we are yapping. I don't feel like Hack feels bullshit because it's not aimed. I feel like Hack feels like bullshit just because of the effect of it. I don't think that's really true. The limit of the effectiveness and strength of Hack is the limit of the amount of time that Hack lasts. The actual silence effect, when we're talking about Hack, that would be. Were they ever considering making Hack the Overwatch 1 Hack? No, they've never thought about it since, because they removed all stunts from the game because they had to in order to introduce one tank. Yeah, sure. Like I understand the point that skill to value curves should be balanced, and people get upset more when something doesn't require skill in order to get good value. But I feel like we should balance that with the value side of it and not balance that with the skill side of it. And when you start balancing with the skill side of it instead of the value side of it some of the time, what you do is you remove all the type of things that are weird or interesting or different about Overwatch. What you do is you squish into the middle over time, because you're cutting off the limbs of the random bullshit that exists within the game. Mercy being able to just left click on somebody, like our Mercy rework sucks in my opinion. It's great. It works really well. It's exactly what Spilo would really like for the 5v5 format. But in my opinion, Mercy should be able to left-click somebody like an idiot or right-click somebody like an idiot and be able to get good enough value to win the Masters game. I don't care, right? It's one of those where it's, sure, this is going to create tension, but the fact that you have those type of abilities means that you can have those type of abilities, right? All you're saying by, like, we have to change this is we have to change every single type of thing like this, not just this. It makes me think of Junkrat. Get out. I guess previous Virus in the low ranks is busted. It's always been busted. It's just a bad idea to start with.
Actually about the utility of the Hack combined with it, and now we're actually making Hack a skill shot. This does two things. Number one, it makes it harder to land versus characters that it's easy to land on right now, like Doomfist and Wrecking Ball. But it also...
Not everything has to be a skill shot, Spilo. Oh my god. Can we just have a game with different types of abilities instead of having games with all abilities that have a healthy skill to value curve. Like, this is exactly what I said he'd do. Like, exactly what I said he'd do. Just make it so that, first off, Sombra can duel a little bit more on the wings. Second off, make it so that Sombra's arms are cut off, or the wings are cut off, and other things like that. Everything is Call of Duty, exactly.
Also makes it easier to land on characters.
But he's not... To be clear, this isn't bad design. Comboing hack with virus shrinking projectiles, it does it. It's fine. It makes it so you can duel on the angles. It gives you choices. That's fine. But like every single thing that Spilo suggests is just like a little bit closer to the middle. Come on, a little bit closer. And it's like, oh my god, really?
That you can't hack at all. Okay, talk about the Cassidy's, talk about the Sojourns, talk about a lot of the other characters where it's almost impossible
Let's
to get
make
that.
Suzu a skill shot. Don't, because Spilo would 100% go for Suzu being a skill shot, Sanyu. Don't kid yourself to think that Spilo wouldn't think Suzu should be a skill shot. Don't kid about this, because he'll start saying it genuinely.
That hack off unless you catch them totally unaware. Well, now it's actually possible if you're good enough to hit the shot.
I realize I covered up Spilo for half of this.
I think in addition to that,
told
right
me.
now she has a primary fire pause where she does damage, and there's a slight delay before you can do damage again after virus. I think we could probably reduce that.
Hack's identity is strong enough to require a skill shot. Can have weird shit as long as it isn't that problematic. Yes, you can have weird shit as long as that isn't that problematic, like an ability that is strong but doesn't require aiming. That's the weird shit. Not. Yeah, like I get it, but like, all you have to do is cap the high level. And make the high level already revolves around knowledge, right? The three things that you can actually scale up, like mechanics, positioning, timing. Like, it already requires really good timing and positioning in order to get the hack off on the right target at the right time. So why do we have to cap it in terms of mechanics as well? Every single ability, every single thing gets capped in terms of mechanics when we start talking about this for no reason whatsoever, when there are other skills in the game that are relevant to be able to learn. And having a high timing, high positioning based ability, I don't care if it's got a non-brilliant skill to value curve in terms of mechanics. It doesn't matter to me if it's a skill shot or not. Why should it?
Make it more flow, easier in a 1v1 situation.
So you have to pull all the knowledge higher instead of just some in Overwatch 1? Well, I don't care if you have to pull it higher than Overwatch 1. I just care that you have to pull your knowledge of how to play the game higher instead of your mechanics. That's what makes the game interesting. Interesting texture in terms of what you can level up in terms of a skill. If every single DPS, and I would argue, there is not a single DPS you can name me that does not have to click on people in order to get to Diamond, that's a fucking problem. Why should that not be a problem? And every single time they've removed one of these DPS that needs to click on, that previously didn't need to click on people in order to get to Diamond, do you know what happened? The game became lesser for it, and it became more aggressively skill to value curve balanced in terms of mechanics.
You can still see enemy's ult status for the brief 1.56 seconds, or 1.5 seconds, excuse me. No wall hacks probably, and then probably put it on a slightly longer cooldown. And another idea here is where you could actually hack health packs with virus from a distance, right? So you're here, I can virus the health pack. That was supposed to be a virus.
It seems like you're stretching here, man. It just seemed like you're stretching here. Like, put everything into virus.
Beautiful.
Wall hacks bingo.
You could actually...
did we say that he dropped wall hacks? What did we say? Thank you. I appreciate the bingo. Keep the tones down. Opportunist 10%. Okay, so he's removed opportunist? Question mark. Hasn't mentioned lurking. No wall hack. Will not in any way address hack. Do you think he's addressed hack here, in your opinion? He's addressed hack, but he addressed hack, and I said specifically the hack silence. Has he addressed the hack silence? He just said put it to 1 to 1.5 seconds. He's like, it can be bad or it can be really good. Anywhere in this area, like that's a big section, 1 to 1.5 seconds. So I feel like this counts for not addressing it personally.
And then probably put it on a slightly longer cooldown. And another idea here is where you could actually hack health packs with
yeah, it
virus
didn't change
from
what it does. Yeah, no, I agree, Sanyu. He didn't change the silence
a
effect.
distance, right? So you're here.
Yeah,
I can virus the health pack.
Hacks from a
that was
distance.
supposed to be a virus.
Hello, Spilo.
Beautiful. You could actually virus.
Oh, for God's sake. So basically what you've walked into is me bullying Spilo for his bad opinions. I'm here, so you have to shield for... No, I'm not shilling for you. Hit the button. Yeah, hit the button. Let's get the button up. Here we go. Here's Spilo's button. Specifically for him. Here's Spilo. Here he is. Radiant into a guy watching Spilo by Spilo. So what we have, guys, we have... Very simple. We have my predictions, and this was made before watching Spilo's video, and Spilo's, and we have a prediction for what Spilo's going to do. So far, I've hit bingo on Spilo won't mention hacks silence at all. because I don't think he's going to mention it for the rest of the video. Spilo decouples stealth and translocator. That was pretty obvious. We all knew that was going to happen. Spilo understands that Sombra struggles for off-angle dueling, which is fair enough. Everyone's going to realize that, hopefully. Spilo keeps virus. I thought that was pretty obvious. Didn't realize he was going to couple both of them together. I think that's... Oh, I hate the skill to value curve arguments. It's not intended to be a Sombra thesis. Yeah, well, I could tell you put it together in an hour or two. In terms of mine, I feel like I've thought about it for most of last night, but I didn't have notes written down or anything like that.
I think there could be lots of fun little interactions and outplays from this here. I think Opportunist probably needs to go.
It's more of a critique of the rework and not a fully cooked rework. Yeah, I get what you mean. You put more time into the working out how it works and how it should work. Personally, I don't feel, and this is something you probably have to talk to me about at some point. Why do you rework everything into a skill shot when, let's be honest, there's kind of like three things that scale in terms of Overwatch. It's kind of like positioning, mechanics, and timing. Like the three things that probably scale for this game. Why does everything have to have a high mechanical skill to value curve demand, right? Why does it always have to go like this? Why can't the mechanics be like this, but the timing be like this to account for it? Why don't we have these balanced together? Why is it always everything gets why don't we just make it, and I get it, the virus can't be, well, hack can't be this instant cast ability that's better for dueling on an angle and that sort of stuff. But I'm an old man, Spilo. I'm a very old man. Do you know what I hate in my video games? I hate having to always click on things. It's awful. I despise it because my fingers don't work too fast and I don't react too fast after a long play session, especially if I'm grinding the game. So I had all of these great characters in the DPS category that used to be able to just exist and work off of positioning and timing, whereas now every single fucking character has to click on people, and I hate it. And every single character rework that ever gets announced, oh well, yeah, hack's slightly problematic, let's just rework it into a skill shot. I'm like, fuck off, rework it into a skill shot. Why does everything need to be a skill shot? I want to exist in the game, exactly. Yeah, that's the reason why so many people play supports. The reason why support is such a highly queued role at the moment, because support is the only role that you can exist on without having to click people. My core fundamental argument, and the reason why, and you'll hate this, I've been a 6v6er for so long, is I feel personally that 6v6 had a lot more chill, relax. You don't have to be an active participant. You can just be a passive person, right? You can just exist as a cog in the machine, and that's kind of like what I feel like most people coming into the game actually likes. I can play Widow, Doom, and Ball again, and until people learn the use Sombra. Excellent, yeah. I'm happy with the reworks that remove the Sombra character from the video game. We got a couple of little things. We could have Hack be like this in terms of mechanics, or but in terms of timing and in terms of positioning, it could be like this. It doesn't have to be just one or the other. It doesn't have to just be like, and I'm not saying I want the hack skill to be a flat skill to value curve kind of argument. I'm not saying that, but why is Lifeweaver bad but Mercy okay? Lifeweaver's bad because Lifeweaver exists off of just kind of surviving okay, so August, Lifeweaver, I've made an entire video on it. Lifeweaver's bad because Lifeweaver's healing mode is fundamentally not set up for the type of healing that Lifeweaver does. In terms of healing people on angles, essentially Lifeweaver has to charge an orb, use an orb, and if he's through putting healing onto the tank and somebody gets damaged on the sidelines, he has to use that orb and then move over, or he has to hold that orb and wait for somebody to get damaged on the side. Lifeweaver's healing format is just badly made, in my opinion, for what they were trying to do with the character. Obviously, you had no risk to set up on Sombra with perma-stealth. Yeah, 100% risk reward is a massive thing that you should be thinking about in game design, but it's not the be-all and end-all of game design. It's not the be-all and end-all. There's a lot more things to think about, and yes, you have to really factor in risk to value, but realistically, you can have risk to value and other things working against each other in order to even out on as to the actual value you get anyway.
Obviously, if we're tying virus in with hack and reducing the duration a lot, I don't think we need Opportunist anymore. I don't think she needs the additional damage. This would, if we kept Opportunist, would basically reintroduce spawn camping and stealth killing. I think Locator on the longer cooldown is fine if stealth is also a cooldown, so that we can actually manage both of those CDs.
Sure. Remove Opportunist. Remove Opportunist. Did we take that off already? Yeah. Oh, keeps or tones down. We didn't get remove. We said he'd tone it down. We thought we'd keep it.
I think we can reduce her ammo to 40, maybe buff her fall off by a little bit and slightly tighten spread so that we can actually have some sort of mid-range pressure. Now, what this means is now that with the 250 HP and a slightly tightened spread, we actually have a gameplay loop of where you actually have to decide, do I want to off angle and pressure tank? Do I want to use my angle and my HP and my virus hack combo to take a duel?
Well, let's finish, then we'll re-explain.
Right? Or do I want to go for backline assassination situation?
As to my fix for Sombra.
Essentially, what we've done is we've not really removed backline assassination potential. We've just made it a little bit weaker. We've not really removed the potential for standing and hacking tank. We've just made it.
Here you go. Closer to the middle, guys. Cut off your arms, cut off your legs, you come into the middle. Everyone becomes Soldier, everyone becomes Call of Duty. Nothing interesting in the video game, nothing that has a low mechanics demand on the thing that you do. It's just this constant churn towards the center, in my opinion. I hate it. Like, everyone must be viable in all things. You must be able to fight an angle and be 76 and be in the backline in some regard. Nobody can say, like, when you're in the backline, you should probably be looking for hacks, but maybe you have a lot of different things to choose in the backline. When you're on the angle, you have an okay dueling ability, or even it could be a bad dueling ability. It doesn't really matter. And when you're in there, I don't know. It's a removal of choice from the kit, in my opinion. New Sombra seems to be way more lethal now. Yep, but way harder. It's not harder. That's the problem. It's definitely not harder. It just requires you to lurk. And this is the bit that Spilo didn't say in this video, by the looks of it. If you just lurk on Sombra around a corner and wait for people to pass you, and by the way, that's the 60-minute timer because they didn't code Sombra's stealth properly. Yeah, if you just lurk on Sombra and you hack people, they are now so dead, ridiculously dead, more than they ever have been. And that kind of sucks even worse than it did before. So in a way, this change has made Sombra worse than before. Both begin with an S. Why is it inherently bad that the more extreme characters are brought closer to the center? Because once you brought all extreme characters closer to the center, what you've done is reduce the amount of things you could possibly design in the video game and reduce the diversity of the video game. That's the argument. The moment you say, well, you have to have mobility, there's no argument. Mobility is fun and interesting and cool. I love mobility. But if you're arguing that this character and this character have to have mobility, then everyone has to have it. And therefore you can't design something without it. And you just whittle down on the type of things that you can design by going closer and closer to the middle. That could help with some of the worst matchups. Of course it could. Of course it could. No problem. But the fixes that I want, the fixes that I try and design, are the type of fixes that don't reduce the potential diversity in hero design. Because let's be honest, Blizzard is, I'd say, about charitably, I say charitably, like 40% good at designing heroes. Right, they get there-ish, right? So what we gotta have is we gotta have the biggest design space clearly mapped out for them of interesting things they could do, so they don't accidentally keep going way too far to the side. And when we give up the design space and we stop designing in it in an interest, like we did with Overshields in Overwatch 1. Overshields got completely removed in Overwatch 1. Overshields were very interesting design space that should have been designed in, but they were overpowered on Brig in terms of rally, they're overpowered on Brig in terms of health packs, they're overpowered on Symmetra in terms of shield gen, so they gave up on the idea, right? Design space yielded. And then from then on, they have one more thing that they just can't design in. And it's been like that since the start of Overwatch to now. You need to come up with creative ways to make them viable, not to just cut them off. You don't have a limb that's like, you cut your finger, what? I hope the new tank follows the trend of Venture, Juno, and Queen being good characters. Yes, 100%, yeah. Malgor or Lifeweaver, I feel like Jeff Goodman's gone, so it'll probably be okay, Grant. The new rally isn't much better, to be honest. I feel like I don't... Okay, Squid. I feel like you don't remember the old rally. I'm sorry, but you know what? We go here for... I feel like you may not remember the old rally. Do you remember how you could shield gen and Torb armor and rally on top of each other and get 425 health zen? Do you remember that? I don't think you remember that, dude. The new one is crazy OP too. Yeah, that's true. It's OP in terms of power level, but not in terms of the design space it's designing in a way, right? Power level, but not design space. Shield generator was peak. That's true. The Overwatch at the time that shield generator was available to be designed in the game was peak, and that's the thing. That's why, as I say, like I miss Sombra. I mourn Sombra because when Sombra was released, we were at the next hero after Sombra, because we released Ana, then we released Sombra. The next hero could have been a fucking RTS character that controlled bots that went around the map. I wouldn't have cared whether it was balanced. It's cool. And do you know what we did? We just gave it up. For the sake of ease of doing it, obviously, there would have been engine restrictions and other stuff like that. But at the same point, we cut off the limbs and we designed to the middle. New tack has knockback and is why tank knockback passive was nerfed. They'll have a beam weapon, and that's why they're talking about giving matrix beam reduction. They'll have a shield, which is why ram punch was changed. Yeah, very possibly. I'd like to see some more creative ults and supports, honestly, thinking about it now. It will seem to just allow you to do more pain. Yeah, one of the things with ultimates, and the great thing about ultimates in general, is ultimates allow you to have whatever the fuck you want on an ability. You can just do whatever you want. You can be absolutely crazy if you want to.
A little bit weaker, and what we've made stronger is her ability to find somewhere in between. So now you really have 3 options with Sombra: harass tank from mid-range.
Sombra, Spilo didn't address hack in any way. I guess he did address hack, but he just combined it with virus. I don't like that.
Yes, or
but
go for
whatever.
backline. But all of them have risk reward, and you have to decide about which one makes the most sense in this situation. And I think that's
right. Risk reward, bang the drum, risk reward. There we go. There's Spilo's talking points for this week.
What's missing with Sombra. It's always been, this is clearly the way to play, or this is clearly the way to play, and that's kind of what's been missing. So last little thing here, we talked about EMP, maybe reintroduced Opportunist, so the damage boost for hack targets for EMP only, 8 seconds hack, something that's more...
Tier 3 Torb turret? I miss it. You can't have the Tier 3 Torb turret without all the things that came with it. And do you know the thing, Grend? That's not a worse game. That's a different game. It's not worse. Don't let people tell you it's worse. It's just different, okay?
Interesting for the Sombra herself, rather than just more damage, more hack duration. You can tweak the science duration, you can tweak the percentage damage. I think we overall want a weaker ultimate than live, because for, I mean, legitimately, what, 6 years, 7 years, Sombra has been basically play for EMP, OP, everything else is kind of midway. I don't know. Basically, here's the thing. My ideas are revolving around...
Miss my tier 3 turret? Yeah, me too.
Finding, not the middle ground, but
people.
finding the actual capability of allowing Sombra's gameplay.
And we have to acknowledge when we say that, like, I don't want to click on people, I want it to be a skill and positioning and timing thing. There's a lot of abilities that you can design in this type of game that have a type of skill curve that could be learned from YouTube in 3 minutes, and will be learned from YouTube in 3 minutes. And we have to acknowledge that as a weakness to the things that we are designing. Because if people can learn it from YouTube, then everyone's already at the skill floor, right? They're already there.
Loop to not be so incredibly
Turret
tight,
positioning.
incredibly fast, and to find something that allows her to have more choice besides strictly tank or strictly backline. There needs to be some sort of in between. I think Virus has been a relatively good idea in terms of the skill shot.
Piss off, Spilo. Nah. Shut up. No. Nah. 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 No. That's not true. That's not true, Spilo. Right, can I get the Virus lovers in chat to say why they like Virus? You lie like a cheap rug? His hair's pulling too much intelligence from his brain. His power levels are low. I like the idea behind Virus. The idea behind Virus is just a skill shot with damage. It's not that interesting. Maybe it's because you didn't see the previous things we went through earlier. My problem with Virus is that Virus is fine in and of itself. It's kind of boring as a skill shot damage ability. Combining it to hack is absolutely awful. It is terrible for the game. It's really bad, because you know what combining it to hack means? It means if you are able to hack someone, you guarantee a more advantaged fight against them, which means that you are guaranteed to be more looking for ambush style plays in the kit. Which is bad, because ambush style plays is more boring for other people and less fair for other people, and requires console players to be able to have a 1 second turning circle, when most of them have a 5 second turn. Don't go watch guides and stuff. I learn from gaming or pick things up watching streamers play. Very remember the bits from streamers though. Practical learner over theoretical. Probably why I'm still plat after 8 years. Grant, what I was actually talking about there, I was talking about Torbjorn turret and positioning the turret in particular. You cannot tell me, Gren, that you are not smart enough to watch Spilo tell you how to position a turret in theory for 5 minutes, and then put that into practice at like 80% efficacy in a game. And I was saying that's kind of something we have to be very mindful of when we balance, because the internet is ever pervasive now, and you can't allow knowledge skill curves like that to be part of the skill to value curve when you actually design. Prefer Virus over the old broken opportunist? Oh great, we get a potato or an egg. You can have a potato or an egg. Neither of them are cooked. You got to eat them. That's great. When you say old broken opportunist, do you mean the 50% sights through walls, or do you mean the 40% damage? Potato, please. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I get the potato. Who wants the egg? I feel like dying to a skill shot feels less horrible than dying to a hack or spray, but you don't die to a hack. If hack is not coupled to your damage, you do not die to a hack. You just get disabled by the hack. That's the difference. If Sombra previously in Overwatch 1 wanted to kill you, she wouldn't hack you, she'd just shoot you. That's the difference. There was no hack to kill kind of like cycle. Sure, the hack was kind of like awkward to respond to if you did get hacked, but Sombra wasn't the one that killed you, it was somebody else that killed you. At least then there was some sort of timing and positioning team play that happened in order to allow that to happen. And I agree that like old hack wasn't perfect in any way. It had a load of problems, but the way they went with Virus was significantly worse in my opinion. Anyway, there's
because so much of her damage is tied into it, and it's exacerbated by hack. It's basically if you hit the virus, great. If you don't hit the virus, you can't duel anybody. I think that's a very difficult gameplay loop. You notice here.
Wait, what is this?
Because so much of her damage is tied into it, and it's backline. There needs to be some sort of in between. I think Virus has been a relatively good idea in terms of the skill shot.
Virus is a relatively good idea until this. So just because Virus requires skill, it's a good idea in this kind of like so Virus skill is good.
But because so much of her damage is tied into it, and it's exacerbated by hack, it's basically if you hit the virus, great. If you don't hit the virus, you can't do anybody. I think that's a very difficult gameplay loop. You notice here that with this tweak,
So why do you phrase it like this? I get this from Spilo all the time. Why do you phrase it like this? Oh, it was a great idea, but everything about it, apart from the fact that it required skill to use, was bad. Like, what are we talking about? So it was bad, Spilo. It was a bad idea from conception because it was concepted not as a skill shot, it was concepted as a way of dueling people and ambushing people. It was bad from conception, right? And then after conception, we tied it into hack and made it even worse. In execution, it was you got hit by Virus and died, or Sombra missed Virus and just fight that. Do you mean hack there? Sorry? I feel like you mean hack instead of Virus. That part of the execution I did not like. Yeah, so I'm not saying there wasn't gameplay loops with hack in general, but I'm saying that if you're on an off angle, I feel like the most interesting part of Sombra is when Sombra has a choice between hacking, damaging, and farming and distracting. Those three things were kind of like the core Sombra before, but I feel like half of them have been removed.
Does it introduce the hack into the virus?
I wouldn't mind Sombra being weak. It's not that hard to make it so that hack doesn't bring ball out of ball form. It's really not that hard, Blizzard. It would take so little of your time. Please, Jesus Christ, it's not that hard. Like, come on, guys. It's like, how long we've been talking about this? It's been years at this point. Man, it's been years.
Honestly, keeps Virus still pretty strong. But the key thing is because we have a fall off buff, slightly tightened spread, and 250 HP, we allow Sombra to miss Virus and still be a relevant duelist, right? It's still a mechanical duelist. It's like any other character. Sojourn misses her rail or Sojourn misses her disruptor shot. She can still compensate with some good mechanics.
Do you see how he's comparing it to other characters that have bursty abilities? So hack now just becomes this generic bursty ability that has some kind of like interesting utility. I'm not saying Spilo Rework is bad. I'm just saying it's so boring, man. It's so boring to have people on an off angle that have different things that they can generally do to people in the middle that do more or less the same thing, and they all do damage and they all do something. It's just so boring, man. They all have a bit of lockback, or they got headshot additions, or they like have a dot, or like they. I just want a character that's interesting in terms of decision making.
Good aim, and that's just not the case really with Sombra anymore. And that's the case with a lot of other DPS characters too. Soldier misses Helix should still be able to duel at a disadvantage. Cassie doesn't have hinder or roll, you should still be able to shoot people in the head. And I think that what makes Sombra unique is the fact that we have a flanker with a weapon that has that verticality, and I think we need to be trying to lean into that. So again, I'm not married to this rework. This is just a couple hours of brainstorming. I think my big point is pointing out the weaknesses of our current iteration of Sombra while trying to provide some solutions instead of just criticizing. I think that they're going to have to introduce some way where Sombra has some sort of mid-range pressure. I think they're going to have to shift power away from her Virus, unquestionably. And I think they're going to have to
Thank God, Jesus Christ. I do not understand how Spilo starts with... Spilo starts with it's problematic and other stuff like that, and it starts with Virus is a great idea, and then goes on to explain how every single part of Virus is bad, and also it needs to be reduced because it is problematic still. Like, every rework in Overwatch 2 was shit beside the last Sombra rework and kind of the bull one. Yeah, that's true. The Pharaoh one was okay-ish, right? But it didn't solve any of the problems. The Pharaoh one made Pharaoh more interesting without solving any of the problems with Pharaoh. Great, Blizzard. Good job. Really love that stuff. Tank DPS or support? Well, you could hate yourself by grinding tank, but I'd suggest support because it's the only role with any enjoyment, in my opinion, at the moment, in terms of being able to not have to click on things. Esports viewers don't understand decision making. Seeing players blow up is easy to understand. Lifeweaver was a step in the right direction. That's true. Lifeweaver was a step in the right direction. But I'm still bitter over Lifeweaver's rework breaking our implementation in our code because they changed it so it broke ours. I agree it's a step in the right direction, but I still feel like Lifeweaver is fundamentally set up badly for what he's supposed to do. He has incredibly reliable healing that is very fast to get to the target, heals very fast, gets there very fast, but he has this like charge and release mode that actually does not work with the type of healing he has. He's a spot healer that has to hold his healing in order to spot heal. It's bad. Yeah, I feel like we did pretty well here. He didn't mention hack. He didn't mention lurking. That's interesting that he didn't mention lurking. Tones down or keeps opportunist. He did keep opportunist. Let someone play all three styles. Yeah, well, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Keep all skill shots in kit. There you go. Blah, 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 blah. So I got 8 out of 10 of these. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is not bad, right? It's not that bad. I do love how you say the world can be okay when patently the world is on fire and yeah, nobody's got a fire extinguisher. What do you think of trading in 25 HP and giving Cass some range back? So Squid, I'm gonna make this argument in a proper YouTube video in a couple of days. And I'll go back to Hanover. I'm gonna make this argument a proper like big YouTube video in probably gonna start producing it next week, get it out the week after. But anyway, I spoke to Spilo like twice now about health pools and the way that it affects being in angles and being poked out of angles and being able to rubber band back into those angles and trades between tanks at different health pools. I think that 250 HP is really toxic in terms of being able to support angles in the same way that you do in lower health. So when I say trading in 25 HP and giving Cass some range back, all you do, you're lowering HP, increasing range and damage, which is cool. But what you're doing there is you are making Cassidy significantly better if he is pocketed. And I know that's probably very hard for people to kind of like get, but like I've explained this 4 different times and somehow people aren't immediately getting it. But if a 225 HP cast with extra damage is pocketed, they are better than if a 250 HP cast with less health is pocketed. I don't know how many times I can explain this in different ways before people actually start getting it. Can you combine her hack hand animation and virus cast and keep the fantasy, or the silent part of the fantasy? The silence and the hand animation, I feel like are core parts. They're core memories in Sombra, in my opinion. Could you replace it with damage? You could, but yeah. The thing is, every single... And I get it, but like every single time you say, could I take this out of the kit? I instead come back with, is there a way to work the ability so that you can keep this into the kit? Because as I say, like, you're yielding little bits of design space everywhere. You just like little bit after little bit. I don't feel like you should be.